Hello fellow Game of Thrones watchers. If you listen closely, you might still be able to hear the faint gnashing of teeth and anguished wails of those few lucky souls that survived the collective aneurysm that swept over the fanbase because of the Battle of Winterfell. Seeing how I am an editor and have yet to do a single serious video regarding editing on this channel, I thought now would be the perfect time for me to put on my hard hat, incinerate episode 3 like the leper child it is, and revive it from the ashes as an edited episode that resembles something at least halfway permissible. Before I do that though, there are a few things that I want to say. First, the Battle of Winterfell was definitely not a complete failure. As a visual spectacle, it might have been one of the most impressive things I've ever seen on TV. That doesn't excuse the unadulterated fanfiction that wore a sagging skin suit of the show I once loved, but it's still something. Secondly, while you listen to my edits and rewrites for this episode, keep in mind that I would have had the army at Winterfell lose. In my mind, this would give much more opportunity to learn about the mystery of the Night King and the White Walkers, along with solidify them as the main villain of the show, because, you know, winter is coming and all that. But hey, I don't work for HBO and can't control anything at all, so I will do my best to edit the episode we got. Next, just as some context, anytime I start an editing process, my goal is to always stay as close to the source material as possible, while also fixing most, or best case scenario, all of the narratively questionable elements. I think this is the only way to show respect to the original creator with any work I take up. However, I will take some artistic liberties during the rewrite, just to warn you. I'm already very prepared to have people scream about how my edits made the episode worse, and that I should do a juice cleanse, but instead of carrots, use Clorox. That's just the nature of edits. Some people are going to like them, some people are going to hate them. You live with it. And finally, because I'm not a mindless barbarian or one of those people who eat candy sideways, I will be organizing this edited rewrite into 4 narrative sections. First will be setup and intro edits. Second will be military edits. Third will be character conflict edits. And fourth will be climax edits, all of which will flow into one another. Setup and intro edits will basically be the changes that are made to who is where before the battle and how characters have prepared for the battle. All of these edits are contained within those first 10 minutes of opening suspense from the source episode. Military edits will be changes to the strategy of how the war assets of Winterfell will be used. Those small, strong edits here will make the battle more believable. All of these edits are contained to first contact with the enemy up until the trenches are lit. Character conflict edits will be changes to the overall battle that takes place during the majority of the source episode. This will include characters being in different locations, fighting different enemies, and trying to achieve different goals than in the source episode. These edits are contained to when the trenches are lit up until the Night King enters the Godswood. And lastly, climax edits will be changes to how the battle ends and the sequences that directly contribute to it. These edits will be contained to when the Night King enters the Godswood up until the finale of the battle and the consequences thereof. So without further waiting, let's fix the Battle of Winterfell. For our setup and intro edits, the beginning of the episode would start nearly identical to the source. The fear and trepidation of the characters was a great way to build suspense, and was honestly a highlight of the source episode, so that will definitely remain. Edits I did have in mind were character interactions. Firstly, Jon would be talking in the Winterfell courtyard with Jaime, Brienne, Ed Tollett, Tormund, the Hound, and Beric. He would tell them that while the Night King is the main priority, their next focus should be on the White Walkers themselves. They will all agree that since when a White Walker dies, all the whites under his control die too, killing as many White Walkers as possible will prove to be the greatest asset in battle. It should be pretty easy too, since Valyrian steel and dragon glass will cause White Walkers to instantly burst like an evil ex-boyfriend from Scott Pilgrim. Also, these characters will remain within the walls of Winterfell to fight the enemy should they breach, not be on the front lines like no-name redshirts. Elsewhere in the Godswood, Dany and Bran will be conversing. Bran will ask Dany if she is comfortable with the plan going forward. Dany will answer back to Bran that she is comfortable with whatever it takes to survive. The details of this plan that Dany and Bran are referencing will remain hidden until the character conflict section of the rewrite. Gotta have something to keep the audience guessing about, after all. Sansa will then enter the Godswood and ask to speak with Bran alone. Dany will oblige, leaving the 2 Stark siblings. Sansa and Bran might share a small conversation, something to show their affection since imminent death is on the horizon, but then ultimately culminate with Sansa asking Bran if what he has planned will hurt. Bran will answer back that he doesn't know. Nothing like this has ever been tried before. Again, not going to go into any specifics in order to keep the tension and mystery high going into the battle. Leaving out of the Godswood, Sansa will be approached by Theon. He will tell his Ironborn archers to protect Bran, but will ask Sansa the favor of personally protecting her in the crypts, just in case anything goes wrong. Sansa will tell Theon that he is better served on the battlefield, but after his insistence, Sansa will grant him his wish of guarding the crypts. I chose to make this edit because A, the main characters in the source material must have been freebasing paint thinner not to realize that a crypt full of corpses might be in need of protection when facing off against a Lich King, and B, I thought having Sansa and Theon together for this episode would really align well with their character arcs so far. Switching back to Dany, she and Jorah will approach Samwell Tarly. She will tell Sam that she wants him in the crypts. Sam will initially take this as an insult, as if he's not good enough to be on the battlefield, but Dany will explain that with Melisandre in the crypts, she needs to know someone brave will be down there to protect her if the worst were to come. She will tell Sam about how Jon spoke of him killing a White Walker, something almost no other man can say, and she will attest to knowing firsthand the bravery, strength, and resilience of House Tarly. Jorah will hand Sam Heartsbane, and Sam will reluctantly agree. So originally I was going to choose Jon to convince Sam here, and it still works as an option, but I think having Dany makes the decision more powerful. Their previous, how do I say this kindly, awkward interaction together would really be turned around to highlight the fact that Dany is entrusting Sam with protecting Melisandre. Either way, whoever talks to Sam, he will end up in the crypts. So after the main characters have said their words and made their peace with pretty realistically being worm food come morning, the Winterfell army will assemble to wait for the dead to arrive. But of course, just like in the source episode, Melisandre will appear out of nowhere. Now, all jokes aside, Melisandre doesn't actually do much of impact considering the narrative. Really, she has 3 beats from the source episode: inflaming the Aurochs, inflaming the barricade, and talking to Arya. Aside from that, she is narratively irrelevant, and even the things she accomplishes doesn't amount to much except to put the entire lighting department of HBO out of work. The most important part of Melisandre's 3 beats is talking to Arya about blue eyes, but speaking from a narrative sense, Arya's goal, along with everyone else in Winterfell, was to kill the Night King already, so even that conversation isn't too consequential. Basically, this is a roundabout way of saying that you could rewrite Melisandre out of the episode altogether and not much would change. However, because the nature of this edit is to stay as close to the source episode as possible, she will remain included. Melisandre will arrive before the Winterfell army, just as she did in the source episode, light the Aurochs, and be let inside the castle. But instead of staying inside the courtyard in order to light the barricade later, the edits will have Melisandre tell Davos that she belongs in the crypts. Davos will, of course, be confused in protest, but Melisandre will tell him that she is of far more use to the Lord of Light in the crypts than on the battlefield. She will also say her line from the source episode, that there is no reason to execute her because she will be dead before the dawn. Before she goes into the crypts, Mel will say that she needs to speak with Arya first. When the two meet, Melisandre will ask what role Arya plans to play during the battle. Arya will say that she will fight with the rest of the army. Melisandre will then repeat to Arya her line about closing green, brown, and blue eyes, continuing on to say that there is a greater purpose Arya should serve going forward. And when that conversation comes to a close, the setup and character edits will actually be completed. The changes to this section were minor, given that it really only spans 10 minutes, but to recap, our main combative characters are inside Winterfell instead of on the front lines. Bran has an actual plan of engagement with the enemy, and Melisandre, Theon, and Sam are now in the crypts. If you are interested in hearing the military and character conflict edits next, be on the lookout for the next video that I should be dropping soon. If you want to support the channel, I don't have a Patreon, but the best thing you could do is check out my book on Amazon. A link for that will be in the description below. As always, it was a pleasure, and I will talk to you all again soon.